All right. Well, hey,
Well,
really excited. We've got Dan Kitajima here from California, top farmers agent in the country, and good friend of ours. So really excited to have you on the show. And the first, most obvious question is, where are you?
Right?
Closet, house, home, or
It's a lot of
is
shoes.
that your office? I've seen a lot of shoes at your office before in your videos.
yes, hey, thank you guys so much for having me. IdealTraits, and you guys have been awesome to work with. But yeah, I'm actually in my office here in Orange, California. It's not my closet, but we were just talking about how, the insurance business can get stressful. So when it does, I just come in here and look at a few of my shoes that I couldn't afford during my childhood and puts me in good perspective and puts me in a happier mood, which I think is important for business owners and people who manage people need to be.
Yeah. Let's do this, Jeff. Let's have a contest right now. Do you know how many shoes you have in?
No, not really. Well, I kind of an idea.
He has an idea of what we could do closest to,
17,
Jeff.
18,
No, stop.
I want to win this
We
competition.
had nope. You just got to guess. Put your number. You're first.
And pairs of shoes, right? Not how many shoes I can see.
It's closest to. Oh, okay.
How about 250? That's amount of shoes.
Okay. Are you talking total at
not
home
pairs.
too?
Oh,
Or
no,
just
just
there?
what we're seeing right now.
That's what we're seeing. All right. I'm going to go. So it's closest to is the winner. I'm going to go 249.
What are you doing?
Yeah, Kevin, the boss, the big boss, has to take this one.
Which I
I
would
think
have
it's
guessed around 200. And
So it's under?
yeah, I think it's a little under 200 too.
Sorry, Jeff.
You don't have enough yet. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then most of it is actually here because, if I take too much home, my wife will start saying, have opinions about it. So
Right.
a lot of times I do leave them here.
Just
So-
on the kitchen table.
So you're saying we shouldn't take a picture and send her a picture right now?
Well, yeah, it's kind of those, but it's one thing to take it home every weekend or every week to have a new pair of shoes. So maybe she wants to have more closet space to herself.
Yeah. What became the fascination with either Jordans or Nike or shoes, or where'd that start?
Well, really, I just loved basketball growing up, and Michael Jordan was my hero. Um, as a competitor and someone who really showed me, what it means to win and be obsessed, and just someone I really looked up to as a childhood hero.
Yeah.
And I feel fortunate enough that my parents were nice enough to buy me a pair of Jordans every year since
Yeah.
I was, 10 years old, starting from Air Jordan 5. And then I played basketball throughout, high school and then, college. And I was just every year I had a pair of Jordans. And then once I finished school, obviously as a grown adult, your parents shouldn't be buying you Jordans anymore. I thought, shoot, like I need to start working here so I could afford to buy my yearly pair of Jordans. So I got a job at a sporting goods store that was all commission, it happened to be. And that's where my love of sales started. And then I got into insurance sales. So I just feel like it just has a lot to do with connection to my past and wanting to win and aspiring to be like a winner. And taught me a lot about sales and working hard to make enough money to buy shoes. And I feel also some people, we all have different levels of wanting to collect things. And I tell my wife, hey, it's a lot better than cars or watches. So
Right.
it's not the best investment, but it's fun. And I think we all need to have a little bit of guilty pleasure or something to treat ourselves with.
Yeah, Kevin, it's not just insurance. We're talking shoes on this
No, I
episode.
know that's what's perfect. Yeah, but what a
What about
that was
you
a
guys? What do
great
you guys?
answer.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, that got into your motivation and childhood and Michael Jordan, which was my childhood hero as well. Like, I mean, he was just unstoppable.
Not as good as LeBron James, but he was really good.
No, that's not true.
Don't go there.
Don't go there. Don't go there. There's three of us here. You'd definitely be the odd man out on that
Probably.
one. I mean, look at his background and what he just told you.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Let's talk about
It
your.
was a generation difference
Yeah, right.
between you guys.
Dan, I've seen a lot of your podcast episodes, but I feel like, we've talked on the phone a lot. I've never heard like your whole story though. So like starting back, how did you get into insurance and
Yeah.
when you woke up, we like to ask our agents this when they join.
Yeah.
Did you plan on becoming an insurance agent?
Yeah, well, I've always tried to be on this show and be that's along with Kevin Harrington and Sean Merriman and Jeremy Olson. So this is like a dream come true here. But no, honestly, I'm really honored to be on the show. To be here. I just really excited that you guys invited me because you guys are gonna do great things. You guys are already doing great things in the space. I'm really excited for you guys to start this podcast. So just support everything you guys do. But yeah, so really just taking it off from there, being in shoe salesman, making commission. And I just knew that when I finished college, I just wanted a sales job. Like I just knew at least that. And it just so happened that I went to a job fair at Long Beach State, California State, Long Beach, and there was AAA there. And my parents had AAA for all the years, and I actually got into an accident driving my 96 Honda Civic on the 405 freeway, and being a young driver that I was, I totaled it. It was when I was a teenager. I totaled it driving too fast, and AAA took care of it, and I already kind of saw the value of insurance at that time. I was able to get a Ford, and just the service was great. So I just knew, hey, insurance, there's value to it. I mean, I want to do sales. I wanted to have a high income potential, and that's what they offer me. They trained me. I was a call center with like 250 agents, and training was great. So that's how I started, and I did really well there in my early 20s, and that kind of gave me the confidence and the knowledge and the skill. Um, yeah. No, yeah. So the value of insurance and training and everything, and me doing well, and I feel like the income that I made at my early 20s made me realize like, hey, there's a lot of money to be made in insurance, and things didn't work out too well over there at the end. Most of that is due to um, my mistake, I could say. Maybe I was a little too greedy or I wasn't humble. So I had a great experience with how things ended there as far as in the long term, what I learned. Um, and I started my farmers insurance agency because they were the ones really recruiting me the most. There wasn't any type of like training requirements or working under anybody. It was like day one, you're going to be your own insurance agency owner. And my dad being an entrepreneur and business owner ever since I could remember kind of made me feel like, hey, that's kind of like the right fit for me as far as the entrepreneur spirit that they kind of let me have. So that was 2007. And now we're here. And that's kind of how I started. Yeah. And then the first couple of years, I was one of those agents that I was so used to being in the call center and just getting calls like, you know, incoming calls. So when I started my own insurance agency, the first day, you know, I knew I was going to start my own insurance agency. So I let my policy lapse with AAA. So I didn't have any insurance. I was like, okay, gotta get mine first. Got mine going. And my parents, they're the best parents I could ever have. They switched their, you know, two cars and their two properties to me, even though we were way more. And then I said, hey, that was a great day, you know, three sales. Came back the next day, there was nobody calling me, nothing was happening. And I was thinking, wow, what am I supposed to do here? Because I was so used to being fed incoming calls, and what's a better buy signal than somebody calling you? So I had to figure something out. So I just went online, I just typed in internet lead. It was 2007 and smartphones weren't even around, and everybody around the district office was saying, do not buy internet leads. Whatever you do not buy internet leads. And I was thinking, well, what can I do? And even the University of Farmers was telling me like, hey, if somebody wants to quote over the phone, what do you do? I said, try to close it. They said, no, set up an appointment and meet them in person. That kind of tells you how outdated that world was. And I said, well, that's so weird because I have so much experience selling hundreds of 100 policies a month at a call center. I do believe people will fill out forms online and buy insurance over the phone. So I just started buying internet leads, and that's kind of how my agency got off to a good start.
That's
Nice.
so familiar because I actually started my agency in March of '07, and it was the same. People like, you're going to waste your money. But ultimately, I mean, we needed to talk to people. And so we bought leads. And that's how we started growing our business. Same thing, just 6 months earlier than you.
Yeah, I think it took some courage, I guess, or willingness to lose money. And my experience with poker kind of helped me out with that. Back in the day, there was the World Series of Poker was really popular, and in LA, there's a lot of local casinos. So I was kind of used to losing money because I was making enough money to gamble it. Some days will be good, and some days will be really bad. And I said, hey, what's $1,000 to invest on internet leads? And I think, what about you, Kevin? Did that did you feel like you had more willingness to invest in money early on?
Yeah. The way that the compensation program was with Allstate at the time is they would overpay you in the beginning. And so they gave you money to help build your business. Now, a lot of people that started with me, they were buying cars. They have a really good month and they start buying a car. And it's like, no, I mean, I can't do that. Like, I have to reinvest, back in the business. So I was hiring more people. I mean, I started out with one in March, and then I hired another one in 2 months, and then another one, and I had six by the end of the first year. And the people that I started with in my class of new hires, they started with one, maybe had two, they'd lose one, and they had this mentality of shortage and not enough, and mine was more of abundance. And I knew, probably like you, with insurance, we got into it for the renewals. And so if we built this book of business, it would create and insulate, and it would allow us to have more freedom ultimately, instead of being constrained and have this, again, this thought of scarcity mentality. And I didn't want to operate under that at all.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think that is something that isn't the biggest difference maker. Abundant thinking. Hey, if I spend 1,000 and I lose it, then I can make it back. If I hire somebody it doesn't work out, then I can hire another person. There's so much opportunity instead of worrying about what you're gonna lose. I think the focus should be on what we could gain because there's so much out there for us.
Right. So when you started, did you start by yourself, like at your house, or how did that start with farmers back then? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was a district office, which was kind of like where they recruited me,
Yeah.
and it was a really small one. So I just borrowed their conference room, and when they had meetings, I had to leave my office
Yeah.
and go to whoever wasn't there that day and borrow their desk. So it was just literally my cell phone and my laptop, and very low expense. There for about a year. I couldn't really hire anybody because it wasn't really like my office, and I was there just rent free. So really humble beginnings, and my first office was a sublease from another farmer's agent in Irvine, and that was $700 a month, and I had two offices, you know, and that's how it started. But I do believe, yeah, in the beginning, I just had to be really resourceful and really spend money wisely and really cut back on personal expenses and really pay my dues in the early years.
Yeah. Yeah. So when was it? Like, how quickly did you start growing? Because obviously, I mean, you've grown it an immense amount already, and you have lots of staff. But do you remember any type of turning point where it's like, yeah, I need to keep adding and continue to grow? And was staff the main driver of your growth? And how did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think the office was a key factor to me, back when remote wasn't really an option. I went to that really small office or sublease from an office from another farmer's agent, to another office that was about 2,000 square feet. And that was right in the middle of the recession. So I got that one for like $2,000 a month, which is a great deal.
Mhm.
And I grew my team to about six or seven or eight around that time.
Yeah.
And my lease came up, and this is 2012 or so, 2006, 2015, maybe 2015 or 16. I just started, you know, just reading books about thinking bigger. And I just said, hey, I'm just gonna see what I could do and really stretch myself. And I got an office here. The office where we are, we expanded since then, but we went to a 4,000 square feet office, and my rent went from 2,000 to 10,000.
Mm.
And it's a Class A building, and it's with a nice view, a nice conference room, and just furnishing that would have been scary, but I didn't really have, it was really gonna double the size of my agency. And I think once I did that, put myself in an uncomfortable situation. I had no idea. Like the way we get leads came from once we moved there. I kind of committed to it. I said I'm gonna just figure it out later. Like I'm just gonna commit to spending way more money than I'm used to on office space. And now I'm not gonna get that office space to have the same number of staff. So it forced me to recruit and come up with recruiting ideas, marketing ideas. So I think getting a much nicer office or bigger office than I should have at that time made me get more creative and forced me to make that investment worth it. It was a 5-year lease agreement. And I think that kind of was a turning point of me forcing myself to just come up with ideas. And then 5 years later, we moved to this office here, which is $20,000 a month with 6,000 square feet. And I'm doing the same thing again.
Mm.
But I should have figured out the remote thing was going to be a little bigger than I thought. But it still forces me to say, hey, like I got to get the income revenue and the profit of the agency higher because this is a commitment here. This one's a 7-year lease. And I think putting ourselves in uncomfortable situation, like purposely putting our backs against the wall, is when the best ideas come. And it also forces you to work hard because I'm not going to pay this much for rent and not go to work. So I think that is something that has made a difference looking back.
I mean, that's so profound and so true, right? I mean, just you forced yourself in. You didn't have all of the answers. You knew that if you went to this new location, that things would have to look and feel differently, and you got out of your comfort zone. And that's when growth happens, is when you get put into those situations. So, great foresight back then to make that decision. That's really awesome. That's really cool to see. So your team is now, how many do you have on your team now?
We have 23 staff members, a couple people starting on Monday too. And yeah, we're very happy to have some people here who's been here for 11 years, multiple people having their 8-year anniversary next year, early next year.
Yeah.
Um, so really that's who I do this for my family and my staff members. And again, having a bigger team, it really, right now, I will say I'm in the transition of offloading some of my management duties because, um, I kind of let go of my sales responsibilities really early. I did that, but I kind of had a hard time letting go of management duties because I feel like, we all have it. Like when we were doing sales, like no one could do sales better than me. So I want to do all the leads but once I learned that, hey, like actually freeing myself up from that was one of the best things I did. And all agents go through that. But now I'm at the space where I need to let go of management duties. And I'm having a hard time doing that, but I think that is going to be the next stage of my entrepreneurial journey is to have managers. And I think that's going to be a big difference maker because I feel like the last year or so, I haven't been that great of a manager as far as just being available and supporting them because it's just spread too thin. Sometimes I'm just like, what was your kid's name again? Or
Yeah.
or what was your name? I'm just kidding. So having managers and learning how to develop managers is something I'm really excited about, and maybe I could learn from you, Kevin.
I feel like though admitting that and holding yourself accountable, that's the first step. And I mean, when agents hear this, they're like, "What do you mean, Dan? You have a top agency in the country. You must be doing something right." But you know that there's you reassess the business, and you're like, "Here's what I'm not doing well enough." And it's really cool to see that you're holding yourself accountable and want to make the agency have a better culture.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like whenever you talk to, we'll just say A players, right?
Mhm.
Like the best, they're always just willing to learn more. They're humble in saying where the weaknesses are, and then those agents and business owners that are kind of in the middle of the road, they feel like they've got it. Like, yeah, I'm good. Like, yeah, I don't really need to learn more. And then here you have like, one of the absolute best
Right.
and just willing to work on, just getting better and finding out where your weaknesses are, being self-aware of where your weaknesses are, and then working at it, which is incredible. That's why you are where you are. You did mention that you started reading books about thinking bigger, is what I heard. Can you share some of those books, or maybe some of the mentors that you have, or how do you gain your knowledge? How do you learn yourself? Who are you learning from?
I think this is something that we connected with in the past, Kevin. Grant Cardone's book, The 10X Rule,
Yep.
that made a big difference in my life. I think some of the things I have even mentioned there was, you know, um, commit first, figure it out later. That chapter made a big difference for me while I was that that book made me do what I did was, which was get that office and double my staff members and double my marketing span and just, that's only 2x, but I'm still trying to get to 10x, but just thinking way bigger. And I feel like that was the mindset shift I needed is that we could do so much more. And I think that's where it still carries on is like there's so, an ignorance step. There's something that I don't know that's not letting me get to the next level. And I think that's really important for us to think that. And that's really, really where management comes into play. So I want to ask you, Kevin, and Jeff too, from your perspective, like what makes a good manager or what type of things have you helped? Because, all the businesses you have and all the staff that you have, but you don't actually, it feels weird to me to have employees that I don't actually manage myself, to have managers manage somebody. What has helped you with your journey there?
Yeah, no,
You go first.
that's a really good question. And I think part of it is knowing that you're helping somebody else learn and grow to be another manager. Because as the owner, if you start to talk to and manage the people that you're managing, your manager is managing, then it creates a disconnect there, and it doesn't allow them to grow because there's always somebody else that they can turn to. And so, at any time in my career that I had somebody try to come to me and maybe circumvent the manager, I was like, well, no, we'll have the manager in too. We got, because I want to support them. And I think that's a big key piece. So knowing that I'm helping that manager grow by allowing them to make mistakes and allowing them to, learn on their own. So that's a big piece for sure.
And then what I see too, and Kevin's just got so many more years of experience than me in this, and I'm not an agency owner, but all I do is talk to agency owners, and I feel like I can now categorize and see the agents that really do have a good culture, and then the agents that, they keep hiring people, and, everyone has turnover, but they have a little bit more turnover than the average agent. And the ones that have that really good culture, it's number one, you do hold your people accountable. For sure, right? And you have goals and you make it a team environment versus just individual. But then in a combination, I would say the agents that are fun and throw like company parties and throw fun activities. Because listen, compensation, it's tough to sometimes attract people in the insurance space, especially if they're not getting renewals, right? They can make good money, but starting out, you're not going to make the best, especially with your base. So another way of attracting is obviously the career opportunity, training them to become successful, as Kevin said, training them to become an office manager, an agency owner. But then so crucial here is that culture. How do you have a good culture? And I feel like if you're not a fun agency to work for, and we know this, we know that insurance can be boring, then they're going to leave. They're going to get a bad perception of insurance. So when I talk to ABCs and agency recruiters and DMs, this is what they tell me too in the farmers world is, the agency owners that have this, the culture, the career opportunity, the good compensation structure, they're going to have a more high performing agency.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
I think vision too, and you've got vision, and I've seen like you have this called the eternity game, right? And you
Huh?
share that, and your people feel that and know that, and they know where you're going, and even going beyond you. You even said, I heard it, like even like if I die, you know, I want this agency to continue to grow. Number one, but number two, you wanted to make sure that your staff are there because you did something that they wanted to be there. And I mean it's just a great point. So you're not making it about just Dan. You're making it about the whole team, and you do a great job of the awards that you always presenting your team and making them feel very valuable. That's what I see out of you.
For sure.
No, thank you. Yeah. No, that's great insight, Kevin. I think I'm actually learning that right now. Letting, just like when you give a new producer leads, they're gonna burn some, but that's how they learn. So letting them make mistakes, I think that's kind of what I'm learning right now too. But nothing beats experience. I mean, we could guide in the same way, but we kind of did this and maybe that didn't work out or this person left or, maybe we were a little stern there, a little too lenient with this person. But I'm learning that right now. So I'm glad that I'm on the right pace. So like, wow, maybe making mistakes, but in the long term, that's really the only way um, they learn. And I think, yeah, also Jeff, that's a great point there, um, trying to make it fun. And what I try to also do is try to gamify the whole business. Try to make games out of it. I think naturally people are competitive. I know at least I am. So, by sharing stats and awards and recognition, I think that is kind of a way, we kind of like to see sports for that reason or fall, some of the biggest YouTube channels are about just game shows, seeing who wins money and things like that. So making a game, I think, is a big part of making it fun. And I think that is what the challenge when it comes to the insurance business
Yeah.
because it's so not fun. Just kidding.
Let me ask you this. So if you were with a group of agents and something that maybe they know they should do, but maybe they don't do, or what advice would you give to average agents, but they want to grow? They're hungry. They want to get to the next level. They don't really know how. And I'd be curious of that. And then the follow up would be like, what would you say to their staff? So if you just had those agents and you just had their staff and the agents were not present, what is some things you would say to the agents as far as different ways that they could grow themselves?
Yeah, funny. I actually asked you this same question to you on my show, which is a great one. I really appreciate that one. One of my favorites. And something I need to do a little better job at, but that's just train daily. Train daily and repetitively. Sales training is just so important. And I would maybe tell the agency owners that feel like it's a little bit too much for them to have on their plate, and then keep delegating. It took me a long time to get here. It's not like I've been doing this for years, but first thing first is delegate sales and then delegate customer service, but then don't stop there. Delegate the recruiting, delegate the training, delegate and have like a head of a department instead of everybody just doing everything and being so-so at everything. Have some specialist that really is in charge of certain tasks and hold them accountable to results. I think that is something I should have done a lot earlier instead of everybody does sales and customer service and I do the recruiting and the marketing. And it's just, I was getting to a point where I just had way too much things going on. And frankly, I wasn't doing them well because my attention was spread too thin. So for the agency owners, I would say trust your people and give them specific tasks that they could really master. And you do what you feel is the most important to move the needle. To me, right now, due to the situation, it could be finding new products. I love marketing, coming up with marketing campaign to get the leads in. I feel like that's my number one job. And also sales, a lead management system and how to have the templates and how to have the automated messages and those type of things. And then um, sales, marketing and sales or sales systems is kind of what I like to develop. But everything else, a lot of people can do. And then for the producers themselves, um, yeah, I think it's really important that they have patience and belief in their agency owner. I think first of all, it's really important to make sure you have an agency owner that is wants to do great things because there's just no way your career could go this way if the agency owner's agency is just going this way or even this way. So you can't. It's always going to be a parallel situation. So first and foremost, depending on your ambition, but if you have big ambitions, then let's hope your agency owner or the business owner in any business has that so you could go along with the ride because there's only so much you could do within that organization if they don't have the aspirations that you may have. And, also just check to make sure you're learning a lot. And if you feel like, hey, this person really cares about us and is going the right direction, then just go all in and you're going to learn so much. And based on the compensation plan, there's so much opportunity to be made there that make the best out of it. I think it's very difficult for us to expect them to care as much about our agency or business, and we shouldn't. But the more value you bring to the organization, the more valuable you're going to become. And that business owner, because you already know that it's a smart person, is going to do everything they can to make you happy and stay there. So a lot of times we kind of think, maybe as employees that, hey, what are they going to do for me? What are they going to do for me? But just like business owners, it's kind of like, hey, I'm going to give first. I'm going to get you the leads. I'm going to train you, and then we receive later. But I think if the employees also have that perspective, like, what can I do to help this guy? What can I help this business? Then both sides thinking that way is really when great things can happen.
Yeah. It's something you said really stuck is, I think that when a lot of staff, they don't even realize how much we'd be willing to pay for someone who does become valuable. So I've told people before, like, I want to pay you double what this says on your employment sheet because you're so valuable that you deserve it, right? I mean, wouldn't you
Yep.
love to pay more people 75, 100 grand, 100, whatever the number is, right? You can make it up because you're worth it and you created enough value for the agency that you deserve it. Like, that's awesome. We both win. I'm not trying. The person cost you most is the person you're paying least on your payroll.
Mm.
Too many people look at the other way. Like, yeah, they don't really cost that much. But the person you're paying the least probably is the least valuable. They might not be returning any portion of any type of a profit center. And they probably maybe don't like it the best there out of anyone anyways. And so to me, that's way more expensive than paying your best person the most money, who brings way more value.
Yeah, and not only that, the person that is bringing the least to you, maybe even bringing negative energy into the office. But yeah, you're right. On the flip side, if you have a top performer or top manager, I always tell my staff like, hey, I would love to have another person just like him or her and pay them the same amount.
Yeah.
Like I would love to have two of them and pay, them the same amount. But it's still right. Really makes a big difference when you have superstar agency, and we would love to pay the same amount of superstars worth as business owners. But what about to you, Jeff? Like, what are some tips you have to become a superstar within an organization?
He's good.
I
You can tell he
know.
runs a podcast, right?
Right.
I'm like, this makes it easy for
Yeah.
us.
Well, he's smart because, again, we talked about in his podcast too. It's like we do this and you do it almost a little bit, we can call it maybe selfishly, to learn more.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, are we bad because we want to learn more? No, we just want to learn
Right.
and grow. And, Dan's great at that.
For sure. And Dan, to your question, I was thinking about this answer because a couple, people outside the, agents have asked me this, and other vendors, and of course, new salespeople that we hire. And I've got it down to a couple things. And I think one, when you start out with any organization, I think you get there early and stay late, nonstop. I mean, just like it doesn't matter if you performed at a high level and you think you're good to go at 5:30. You stay later. Um, and I know that's tough if you have a family and just had kids and whatnot. I mean, I get it, but for me, it was a little bit easier. I was single. I didn't even have a dog, So I was like, let's just put everything into work because I know it'll pay off. And um, so those first few years, I did that even when I didn't want to do it. Now, when I stay after, get in early, I love it, really. The second thing is, we talked about this on another podcast episode. It's building value. So, obviously we're in sales. Okay. So in sales, what do we need to do? The end goal is to sign someone up. Because you're passionate about the product. And if you ask the right questions, you identified the need from, let's just say, Dan Kitajima, who needs to hire. Well, he needs to sign up with me because I know that ultimately I'm going to help him best if he signs up.
Right.
However, let's say you didn't, or let's just say you were on edge. I want to find a way to build you value for free without even signing you up, right? And so I think I've done a good job at that, at building relationships. I don't think I'm the best salesperson ever, but I would say I'm very good at building value. And there's so many different ways of building value. It could be me introducing you to someone I know who could help you out as an agent. It could be me sending you a couple videos that I know would help you train your staff. It could even be something as simple as, hey, did you hear about this conference coming up? Do you like conferences? Yes, I do, right? So being in the industry for a while and knowing the buzz, knowing what's going on has helped me out a lot. And for me, that's what I try to tell, especially our sales team is a business owner and they appreciate great salespeople. You want to build a relationship. You want to become friends with this person. They're joining your family. Get their cell, get their Facebook, get their LinkedIn. Most agents want to do that and they want to be connected and they want to get that trust from you. So I would say building value and absolutely staying later, getting in earlier, and showing the manager and agency owner that you're committed, like you're here to win.
Man, we're gonna clip that part and show it to my staff.
Woo!
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
At least show up on time, right?
Well, you got to send me a pair of shoes then if you're gonna use that.
Well, you might have to do a Zoom meeting with them for that. But yeah, that was valuable stuff. I really wish that was good stuff, from your perspective to show what you could do for a business owner and Kevin's perspective of like once you have somebody that's doing that for you, then we're so willing to reward
Yeah.
and show our appreciation by doing things and also wanting their career path to be challenging and rewarding, and we're constantly thinking of new ways to how to keep my staff, my top performers excited. What can they do next? What's their next move? Do they get into commercial? Do they get into life? Do they get into management? Do they get into recruiting? And having compensation packages that make sense for them. Those are fun things for me, And I like you said, Kevin, too. I like to really focus my effort and thoughts and attention to the top performers and the bottom ones, and other managers could kind of manage and have a recruiting system kind of to offset maybe losing the C players.
Yeah.
So yeah, really great insight from you guys. I mean, Ideal Traits, you guys have been such a game changer for my business. And I think recruiting is really one of the major puzzles to a successful insurance agency. And you guys have made a huge difference.
Shelly Early introduced me to you via email. This was 4 years ago. Kevin, you met Dan at IGC when you guys both spoke at that event.
Yeah.
But I remember Shelly, she's a good friend of mine, agency business consultant, one of the best in the industry. I was just hanging out with her last week in Dallas. But she introduced me via email to you because she's like, you don't know who Dan Kitajima is? I was like, no. And she introduced me, and then I obviously looked you up. I saw your credentials. I'm like, why is this guy not using IdealTraits, right? Right. And then you started using it, and then it was cool. I checked in a few months later, and we saw that it was a good fit. But how have you used it, and what is it what do you like most about IdealTraits? And like, just walk us through as an agent who just gets started and posting the ads and using the assessment, like what do you appreciate most about it?
Yeah, that's funny. 4 years ago, same thing. Like, what is Ideal Traits?
Yeah.
I was like, who's that? And now 4 years later, it's like, who in the insurance business doesn't know or use IdealTraits? So we both maybe can, have come a long ways. But yeah, it's just, sometimes people could just be great at interviewing. That's about it. And maybe the reason they're so good at interviewing is because they interview a lot.
Yeah.
So it really gives us a deeper insight into um, who they really are, you know, and I mean all the futures really. Um, Personality assessment. Okay, so you start seeing pattern recognition. Okay, this is going to be like this person. This is going to be like that person. So pattern recognition kind of gives you an idea of like, okay, this type of person will be a better fit for this department or these type of roles. So that's one of the things where it kind of saves us time because sometimes, and this, not that it doesn't work, but you hire somebody, then you figure them out and like, okay, this have you do this. But if you kind of get that job duties kind of squared away even before they start, that's better. Also, the problem solving, I mean, it's a people business and you got to have people skills and communication skills is important, but it's also important to be able to know the tactical, rules and regulations and compliance and products and billings and, just kind of have to have a part of you that's also book smart too. So figuring out those questions is really important too, because again, that part of the interview, wow, is such a great communicator. They write a really nice email, but can they problem solve? Because that's kind of what we do as insurance agents is we kind of figure out what their problem is and try to solve it for them based on numbers and the rules we have to work with. And then the short answer. That part is really important to me because especially in California and maybe more in different places, especially in urban areas, like nobody really wants to like pick up the phone and make a connection unless they really have to. So the written communication and how you could communicate through the written word via emails and text is so important these days. So sometimes in an interview, you're asking a question, and sometimes people will answer questions beautifully, in person. But when you ask them a question by email, it's like, a three-word sentence, and it's just no empathy or warmth or excitement, or it's just hard to communicate through. Not hard, but everybody has different levels of being able to communicate in a written format. And it also gives you a lot of insight in how much they want this job because, based on what they say, you can really learn a lot about them too. And then also if they even do it or not too, So I like to do a little bit of phone interview or video interview and then have them do the assessment. Um, that has helped me out because that really shows me how gauge your interest level and so much things about their personality and if they're smart or not, they can problem solve. So it really helps me narrow down the candidates and make a good decision because the wrong decision could set you back so much
Yeah.
time, effort, money,
Right.
and that is one of the biggest decisions we make as business owners is who we let in our family. And any tool that helps us get that part right is immensely valuable to us.
Yeah, so true. And, it's like none of those awards are yours or even mine back in my past. I mean, it's the team. Like, we cannot do it ourselves. It's all about the team and finding those right people. But you even when you talk about taking the test, a tried and true one too is how fast they take it. So you have this, pre-interview with them, and you're like, Jeff, I kind of like it. Next step is take the assessment. Did you get it in 20 minutes? I mean, did they do it immediately? Did they wait a couple days? It just shows how they take action
Yeah.
and how quickly they move. So there's so much to it. And boy, to go in blind and know that I'm risking 15 grand, which would be the lowest amount of money we'd probably agree on, that it would cost for the wrong hire, in return for knowing so much more. So it's a pretty easy decision.
Sign up today. No,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah. So one thing that we find in all successful people that we've had on the podcast and just throughout life is consistency. And I just think that just a common thread. I can't even point to a person, anyone that is successful and is not consistent in something. And you strike me as completely consistent. Consistent with your workout in your morning and what time you get there. And so, am I right on that? Are you a pretty consistent guy?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, almost to a fault, you know. Um, but yeah, what time I wake up, what time I go to the gym, what time, I eat. Um, Everything kind of, I like to have that type of schedule lifestyle and be consistent. I do believe that gets you results. But at the same time, I feel like maybe when I'm too consistent is when I'm not adapting to something that comes up that I should look into, or maybe I'm not pivoting as fast maybe when I should.
Yeah.
So, um, and then the discipline part, it's almost like I'm too disciplined where my body starts to get too tired or like I work too much. So in a funny way, the new discipline is knowing when to stop working out or knowing when to stop working so you could get enough rest for the next day. So it's funny how I think I reached to a point where it's like some of those core beliefs has almost been a little bit too much. So it is still a balance, but in general, if you haven't reached a high levels yet, then you got to find consistency to get there. So yeah, same thing with you, Kevin. That's where we really resonate is just, our morning workouts and routines and scheduling. But I think that's just a ticket to entry. Sometimes people say, hey, yeah, they look at my stories and say, I just get exhausted from looking at your stories. But I just
Also, your Facebook posts,
I just love it.
I'm sure you like posting, and like, you know, obviously condoning your team and you got such a big following and they want your content. But probably sometimes you're for me, I'm like, I don't really want to post this, but you know that it's important. Like it's kind of your brand and it's your you owe it to your agency, you owe it to your following.
Yeah.
And I've been learning every conference I go to, people aren't doing enough posting. They're not branding themselves enough. I think Dan, you might do it at a certain time of day. I don't know, but anytime I look, you got it's not just a post. It's a post with, you got three paragraphs talking about your agency, the steps you took, and you'll highlight some of the people of your team. So I think that's really cool and something that not everyone likes to do. It's not like you get up and want to post every day, but you should do it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
that.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's really where consistency comes from. I think the best brands in the world, that's what they do, right? They always show up.
Yeah.
And as business owners, I think no one could buy from you if no one knows you. And that's just part of the game is to be in front of everybody and do it in a way where it brings value to them too, not in a way where it's like an ad or trying to sell something to them. Again, thinking of values of like, hey, how can I help somebody else in my situation, even if there's no potential business opportunity. I just want to kind of help out the community by sharing some of my lessons I learned. And just like, with employees, when you give, you get back. And same thing with the online community, I try to give. And this has led to connections like this, with you guys and being able to learn from you guys too. So, yeah, putting yourselves out there and sharing your story I think is really a tool that a lot of people don't utilize enough. And the best part about it is that it doesn't even cost us any money. There's a lot of things that as investments we have to do, but you know, it's 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 free to post, and there's no limit. So I personally feel like I'm not doing enough because there's other things that actually make more difference to my bottom line than that. But I think it's a great way to just help people out and learn from each other and give back to other agents or business owners or anybody in the industry that, could be following you. And I also follow other people that inspires me. So in a way, I look up to the people that do that.
Mm. I like your posts that deal with your family. I know you recently been to, Hawaii and had enjoyed time with your family there. Those are great. Or when you tell stories about, really like living in the moment and holding your son's hand as you cross the street, because that day's pretty soon, right? They're not going to want to hold your hand anymore. And so living in the present, and I bet you're doing that a whole lot better now and learning now maybe than in the past.
And Dan,
Yeah.
real quick about that too, before I forget. I think this is funny because it applies to all of us, but I always think agency owners when we say we're busy, and then you're on Facebook for 3 hours, right? But Facebook and Instagram. I mean, these are tools that help show what you're doing in your community. And like with you, you're at a point in your career where you want to help a lot of agency owners. You have so many friends out there. So you want to post content that's relevant, and you want to post content that's going to show agents like, listen, it's not always going to be easy, but here's some of the steps that I took to get to where I'm at. And I think that's really cool. And there's so many Facebook groups out there and so many agents that want good content. They don't want, like what Dan was saying, like, buy my product or everything's got to be a catch, right? They want just something let's build a value first. Let's get to know, like, and trust this person, and then, talk more about it. And I think you do. Do you still have a consulting side and what you got going on at your business?
Not so much. Again, that's kind of based on just everything that's going on in California, the challenges that we face. So a lot of the posts are about the challenges I'm going through. And I think that's important for other agents to know that, hey, they're not the only ones. Like agents at every level is facing challenges, and we have to be adaptable, and we have to stay positive, and we have to, keep working hard. Some of the best times are when the best ideas are born, is when our back against the wall. I know I said that a couple of times because that's kind of been a motto this year for our agency. So I just want to share with them that, hey, it is hard, but consultation, I think just because of how much, you know, I've actually turned down some opportunity to be on other podcasts, but this one I said there's no way. But yeah, I've kind of have limited myself to those type of opportunities. I do have some a lead, generating company that I sell leads to. But that's more for Spanish speaking community for agents. That is something that I feel like is a real help to agents than one-on-one consultation. Although that has made a difference, I feel like, well, one of the biggest problems we have as agency owners, just up there with recruiting is, well, who can we talk to? So that is a problem I like to solve for agency owners that are in different states. I have limited availability for each state because it's not like anything huge, and I don't want to dilute it, and I really want the quality of the leads to be very high, real time, not shared. It is all Spanish speakers, so that kind of limited to who can be my client, but that is pretty much the only thing I'm doing besides my agency. I think I'm uh, maybe one day, but Kevin is a lot better than probably delegating and having multiple businesses. But um, uh, yeah, I kind of have my hands full just from making sure my agency gets through this difficult year in California.
Oh, that's great. Well, I tell you what, we really appreciate your time today, and we've already gone over, and
We should have him on again and like
knew-
really dive in
Yeah.
more numbers,
But yeah,
but
I mean, I think what's so cool is just your willingness to share, and that's why we were, most excited to have you on. Just knowing that you're always willing to give and help others out, and I think that's what it's all about. Especially when, I know you'll never say you have arrived, but you're well on your way to where you want to be, and there's more to learn, and always willing to share, what happened and how you got there, which is really cool. So we really appreciate that.
yeah, man, and keep buying shoes. We want to see that
Yeah.
closet even more stacked next time.
Yeah, I might ask Michelle to next time we meet. But no, I really appreciate you guys. Really learned so much from you guys already, and you guys are doing such great things for the business. So everybody who haven't looked into IdealTraits, please check it out. Anyone who wants to follow me, please check me out on YouTube or Facebook, Dan Kitajima. I just love helping and learning what other people are doing. But yeah, Kevin, especially, yeah, no, I just really wanted to thank you for just being a leader in our space. And I'm really honored, again, um, this is early on in your podcast, and to be one of the first guests is something that I'm gonna be very proud of. Hopefully, you could give me a copy of this recorded version, I could promote it for you guys too.
And we actually
We
did record it
definitely
this
will.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long story.
Long story. We're going to talk about another episode.
Right.
Dan, thanks so much, man.
Thanks,
I mean,
Dan.
you got a cool presence to you. Agents love you. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kevin. Until
Yep.
next time, see you guys. Thank you.